What's up, everybody? Cdub here. Welcome to my first review of 2022 for a game called Nobody Saves the World. This is a game that I've been excited about for quite a while. I'm eager to get this video posted and share my thoughts with the game. So first off, if you don't know who I am, again, my name is Chris, CW719. I'm a full-time Twitch streamer. You can find me on twitch.tv/CW719 from about 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time most days. Well, Monday through Friday, I should say. Playing all kinds of games there. Come on in, hang out, interact with the community. Great people. Having a lot of fun doing that. I've also got a podcast called Procedurally Generated, where we take a look at the history of video games, but we do it different. We do it 3 random games at a time. And I mean completely random. We have a list of about 125 to 130,000 games. We randomize that list. We take the top 3 and we go to town. We try to find gameplay details, development details, industry significance if there is any, what kind of people are associated with the game, what have they done since, that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. And then YouTube, here I am. We're going to be doing some video reviews. We're going to be doing some Hey I Tried, a series dedicated to the games that maybe I don't finish, but I still want to offer up an opinion on. And then our future dubs. So we've already released our January future dub, obviously, because it's January. We got another video ready to go in a couple of days showcasing the upcoming releases in February. We'll have one ready for March. So we plan on doing that on a monthly basis. Just kind of focusing on new games coming up, stuff you've probably heard of, but I also try to focus on things maybe you've never seen before. So if any of that sounds awesome, hit the subscribe button, like the video, comment. I'm glad to interact with you guys and keep doing this thing. So I have a lot of fun making these videos. Without further ado, I think we should jump right into the review, though. Nobody Saves the World comes to us from Drinkbox Studios, the developers behind Tales from Space, Guacamelee 1 and 2, and Severed. I've never played Tales from Space, but Guacamelee and Guacamelee 2 are 2 fantastic Metroidvanias from last generation, and Severed is a very highly regarded touchscreen game that if you haven't played, you should. Shameless plug incoming, but if you'd like to learn more about Severed, check out episode 13 of our podcast, Procedurally Generated. Wink, wink. Nobody Saves the World tells the story of a pasty, featureless, naked child thing with amnesia. Upon waking in a shed and not knowing how you got there, your first task is to find someone named Nostramagus. His gaudy mansion isn't far as you woke in the shed right next door. When you go into search, you're introduced to a character you'll run into a lot, Randy the Red. He's convinced that you are the person guilty of kidnapping the powerful wizard and dumps you into the dungeon to await your punishment, but not before you get your hands on Nostramagus' wand. This gives you your first task, which is to find enough stars to open the dungeon door. After completing a couple very simple quests, you're granted the ability to use your first form, and thus begins your adventure. Now, as is my typical process, we're going to list off the positives and negatives I experienced throughout my game. I'll go into detail, but I'll try not to be too spoilery if it can be avoided. My first positive takeaway is the art direction. Back when the marketing cycle first kicked off for Nobody Saves the World, one of the things that drew me to the game immediately was the art direction, and the final product didn't disappoint. The art is bright, colorful, with splotches of neon, but still keeps a dark and slightly twisted aesthetic throughout. Your adventures take you to parts of the world with vastly different surroundings, enemies, obstacles, and points of interest. The dungeons run the gamut from a simple cave with stairs leading down to a massive broken down robot and a whale whose dungeon entrance is its gaping maw. There are some truly eye-catching landscapes that you can come across. As vivid as the world and landscape is, I find it equally interesting that the character you play as is a featureless, colorless nobody. Having amnesia, yet knowing there is still an importance to your character, helps to really hammer home the stranger in a strange land feeling this game is going for. My second positive takeaway is all about the forms. While there are some exploration benefits to using different forms, such as swimming and being tiny, the real allure lies in how you use the forms in combat. There are more than a dozen different forms with many different abilities. Now, when I first heard that, I was actually a little disappointed. I didn't think that was enough. After finishing the game, I've completely changed my mind on that. The game encourages you to use all the forms, and once you think you have a good handle on them, you unlock the ability to mix and match active and passive abilities regardless of the form you choose. This really opens up the customization aspect of the game and lets you build countless forms to cater to your style of play. My third positive takeaway relates to the quests. Completing quests rewards you with stars. Stars are used to open up dungeons. Think Super Mario 64. If you have enough stars, you'll open a door, but all those stars go away. So the quests are vital to keeping your tally of stars up for getting through the doors you find along your journey. Also, each form has unique quests tied to them. They range from hit enemies X number of times with this form's basic attack to add additional ability to weaken an enemy. These quests are vitally important as they are the way you level up your various forms. Leveling up your forms not only empowers your current form, but also allows you to then unlock new forms. And lastly, with the quests, it forces you to expand the way you play the game. Later quests for forms require the use of other abilities. It made me create several interesting builds and try abilities that I otherwise probably wouldn't have. My fourth positive takeaway is online co-op. While I'm not one to typically play a game co-op the first time through, I recognize how important that aspect is to others. I imagine tooling through this game with a friend is a pretty special way to experience it. And my fifth and final positive takeaway is the music. This music is very good throughout. I'm not a music critic, I can't make music, but I do know that throughout the entire game, I was bobbing my head to the beats. This soundtrack was done by Jim Guthrie, who's also worked on Below, Sword and Sorcery, and Indie Game, the movie. Okay, now we'll move into negatives. Now, none of these negatives I consider deal breakers for the game. I think they're just there. They're things that I should talk about. So, our first negative is underwhelming rewards. In this game, chests don't offer much beyond food, money, and the occasional upgrade tokens. Now don't get me wrong, each of these items carry a lot of importance, but with several chests hidden around the world and especially in dungeons, it'd be nice to find some more unique items. The charm of opening chests wears off pretty quick when you already know what's inside. The money itself is also a bit underwhelming, as each item you pick up is worth a static amount. The big shiny red gem and the small coin with a hole in it both equal 10 currency in the world. My second negative applies to the dungeons and how they can feel a bit repetitive to one another. As cool as some of the dungeons look outside before you head in, the dungeon design when you're inside can start to feel samey. There are a few that stand out a bit, but for the most part, nothing makes them feel very unique. Now, the dungeons are procedurally generated, so they're a bit limited in what they can do with the design. It's times like this, though, that I wish more games would steer clear of procedural dungeons and stick to a more handcrafted, unique take on their worlds. At least that's my opinion. My third and probably most poignant negative is that the major dungeons block your ability to progress your quests. For some reason that I can't really wrap my head around, all form quest progress is blocked in the main dungeons. My guess is that their intention is to force you to use your best build in what are supposed to be the most formidable areas. I get the logic, but I don't think it's the right move. Like I said earlier, the dungeons are fine, but they do get a bit repetitive. So these dungeons, that are supposed to be the marquee areas, suddenly have even less appeal than the other areas. My final negative is that there's no couch co-op. Now, admittedly, this one is a little unfair because I'm essentially critiquing something that isn't even there, but I can't think of a good reason to not have couch co-op in this game, especially when online co-op is. Couch co-op is going the way of the dinosaur, but man, it feels like this game could be really good as a couch co-op experience. To wrap up, here are some other important things I need to mention, but wouldn't classify as positive or negative per se. The first thing is the story. The story is fine and has some fun and interesting moments, but I never fired this game up and thought, man, I can't wait to see what happens next. This game's real allure to me was watching the meters fill, getting stars, and the exploration. I thought the story took an interesting turn near the end, But committing to the end isn't much of a commitment after all. Things wrap up pretty quickly. Now, whether or not it was satisfying, that's going to be up to the player. And finally, we need to talk about the combat. The combat had moments that felt like there were too many things going on to keep track of. For instance, there were multiple times in the beginning of the game where there would be a horde of enemies, some of which blew fire. Sometimes things would get so busy on screen that I couldn't see where damage was coming from, only to find out that there was fire underneath the layers and layers of characters, and I couldn't see it. Now, while that situation can be frustrating, it is also crazy satisfying to call a dozen familiars into battle and just let pandemonium ensue. Some of the most fun I'd had with the game, and that's the strategy I brought with me to the final boss. There you have it, guys. When it's all said and done, the game took me about 25 hours. I didn't quite complete every side quest, but I did get most of them. And honestly, if I would have finished the rest, it probably would have taken me another hour or two. I was pretty close to being done. There also is a new game plus mode, so if you're the kind that want to jump back into a game that you've just finished, there's that option for you as well. All said and done, I would strongly recommend you guys check out Nobody Saves the World. I think this game was fantastic. If you're a fan of action RPGs and you really like the top-down perspective, I can't possibly think of a reason for you not to at least check it out. It is available on Game Pass currently. I don't know if it is as you're watching this, but this is only about a week after release, so it's there now. So please check it out if you have that service. And if you've already played the game and you want to continue the conversation, leave a comment. I'm glad to answer those. I'm glad to respond to that stuff. Also join the Discord, which I'll have linked down below. We'll talk about this game and we'll talk about countless other games that I not only feature on YouTube, but I also play on Twitch. So you guys are welcome to jump in there and continue the conversation. So other than that, check out my podcast, Procedurally Generated. Follow me on social media, Twitter and TikTok, all that stuff. You can find me at Cdub719 across the board. And until next time, thanks. We'll see you later.